but it's a roller coaster, and I'm sure everybody's going through something similar in some kind of way.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think obviously the COVID has probably impacted a lot of people in various different ways. But what I've noticed, obviously, with the whole sort of, I think I'll say the TV industry, they've tried to obviously incorporate the whole COVID obviously later on when they were allowed to, in terms of trying to social distance. Because I've seen programs such as like EastEnders and Orbit City, and it just feels weird not seeing a lot of people, especially a lot of like all the, what do they call them, the extras in the back walking around or doing whatever they do, and I'm just like, it just feels weird. Even the actors themselves, they can't touch, they can't go close to each other. There's social distancing on TV, and you can actually see that. It's crazy, you know.
Yeah, and also crazy that like at the beginning it was really difficult to get used to. And I think, but also now it's weird how I'm managing to normalize it as well. But you're right, like in the sense of like them not being able to kiss, or them not, you know, showing affection, and or hugging, and there's that kind of. I can only assume that the directors are having to figure out ways to still show that emotion, but without, you know, the physicality. So it must be tough. And then also theatre is not about, because we can't get into the auditoriums, we can't get into theatres at the moment. So that's also quite tough. And I haven't been to the theatre like in a year at the very least. I'm like, it's frustrating, but you know, I guess it is what it is.
Yeah. So hopefully June 21st will be back out.
Trust me.
Yes. I've already got loads of stuff in my diary from then.
I can imagine, boy. No, listen, I mean, hearing what you're saying is literally such an inspiration. Obviously, like you say, you started from like the age of 16, with the screenwriting thing, to the point where you've had a special part, I think, to play in the BAFTAs as well. Putting all of that into consideration, and in regards to our topic for today's episode, in regards to following your dreams, the first question is, I just wanted to get you to obviously answer this, is like, do you think, in your own opinion, are we encouraged to have our own business and to be a business owner, or is it just a case of just having a good job?
Do you mean that in the sense of like, as us as black people, like our parents, or do you mean as in like just generally, like how specific?
Or I'll say both.
Yeah,
to be really honest, I think as a generic, because I mean, I can say when I was younger, you know, we used to have like the careers advisor as to like, they'll say, oh, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? I just never felt as if like they were advising me in the right way, in my opinion. I don't know, I can't speak for anyone else. It's just a case of like, they just expect you, okay, you go to uni, I mean, you finish school, go college or sixth form, whatever, go to uni and get a good 9-to-5 job. But whereas like a lot of us, we possess a lot of different type of skills within us, to the point where we can end up, we don't have to go to college or we don't have to go to school, but still end up in a good place. So my question is, like I said, is, are we encouraged enough to be a business owner, or is it a case of just going and having a good job as a generic and as black people as well?
I think generically, in terms of my experience, it was always the core studies like English and maths and all that stuff, and it was about just getting a good job. I think we did have, I think it was like A-levels or something, that's when we had in our school business studies, for example. But by that point, I thought business studies was boring. I wanted to do something creative. So I wanted to do something creative, and I always wanted to personally do something that was different from what was considered the norm. And I think, I don't think we're taught about, or I don't think we're allowed to explore other options during like school, like growing up and stuff like that. And it's I think it's, I don't understand why, actually. I'm not sure. But then I think specifically, like, my parents and my family were very much kind of like, you just have to get a good education, and that's what you need to do. And there wasn't kind of what are you going to do next, kind of thing. Which also wasn't such a bad thing, because I had my own intentions and ambitions, and I was happy to discover it myself. I'm quite independent in that sense.
Yeah.
But also, generally speaking, it would be good if, from a younger age, we could see, we do have the entertainment industry. We can get into that. We have other venues and other industries that you can get into, and you can build your own business. But at the same time, there were the odd people in our school who were who were into ICT and computers, and wanted to have their own business. I've got a friend who always wanted to get into gaming, and that's where he is at the moment. And
nice.
He's running his own business. So you have the option. You.
Of course, yeah. Jodi, what are you reading?
I think it depends on the demographic, actually, and just classes as well. Just because it's for me, it's with sometimes of our parents, because as much as we hate to admit, we're a product of our environment.
Of course.
And the reality is, if your parents don't know, they don't know. It's because they've not been exposed to that thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Certainly within certain families. For example, my parents didn't go to university. I was probably the first in my immediate family to go to uni.
Yep.
And it was kind of okay, great, your head. Well, okay, let me just backtrack a bit. It was kind of when I was young, the whole thing was you need to get a good job, you need to do this, you need to do that. Okay, these are the stepping stones, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I always had my own agenda.
Course,
I know what I wanted to do. When I was really young, I actually wanted to be an archaeologist and a historian. I love that stuff.
Oh, wow.
And I still love history now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Jeez, okay.
And then when I was about 13, 14, I was I want to be a pediatrician. I want to be a children. I love working. I want to work with children, this kind of thing. And literally that was okay, so I think I went to my science teacher at the time. I was like, Miss, how do I get into medical school? Because I want to be a pediatrician. So she was like, okay, well, this is what you need to do. Do these GCSEs, make sure that's done, go to college, do these A-levels, blah, 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 and then go do medical school. Then after a few years, you can go and qualify whatever as a pediatrician. Now, obviously, that really didn't work out for me, because when I went to college, I realized I don't like exams.
Okay.
I like coursework, so that part didn't work. I actually did go into a midwifery course, and I was doing it for a while. But when I also got there, I realized that this wasn't for me, because it wasn't about the children. It was about the mother, and I was just well, this isn't what I really want to do. And I'm 18. I don't want to be doing all these crazy things to these women. It's mad. So I ended up leaving, because I always thought that was a lot. And it's also this value that's placed on just going to school.
Yeah.
It's just
100%.
Obviously, I've so dumb, right? But sometimes on my classes, I have been giving me trouble in the past, to be loud or whatever. But I'll stop the whole class. But listen, it's not for me, I got 2 degrees. I don't need this. Yeah. You be quiet and listen. I got 2 degrees. I'm good.
You sound like the mum from Everybody Hates Chris. That is
my husband's got 2 jobs.
Oh man, that's what I used to say. But it's kind of even in me doing that, that's saying to them, "Yo, I have to go uni and get 2 degrees." Miss, it's not allowing them to express themselves how they want to.
Yeah.
And now, as an adult, I'm I love what I do, and obviously there's stages to certain things. But my whole point behind that was just I feel within our community, especially with Black people, especially you, I'm sure you can agree with African communities also. It's get a good education, go and get a good job, this kind of thing. There's no, if you want to be artist, if you want to be musician.
What's that? That doesn't pay. That's not career.
Right, things like that. And I think certainly for some Jamaican communities as well, when my parents didn't go to uni, and my dad sometimes he might say oh, you should go and do this, or you should do that, or read this book, or but you want to do your own thing sometimes. It's not that it's not they're not pointing you in the negative direction or anything like that. It's just okay, they're assessing from where they're at, not from where you are.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Because they don't want you to not succeed because they didn't, or they don't want you to not go to school because they didn't go to school. It's that kind of thing. They want you to have the things that they didn't have.
And that's
kind of what it is, really.
And that's always a generational cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
We always want the better. We always want the best or the better for our kids.
Yeah, but then also it's like I feel like sometimes they don't realize that times have changed in a way.
100%.
Everything changes. There's so many things now that our parents don't even understand. Like that's what I was with my mum. She didn't even know how to. There was something to do on iPhone. She's got a Samsung, but she didn't know how to do something on the phone while she was on a call. I was like, so why do you have this phone? Like, you just,
it's like they want the most updated phone, but they don't know how to work it.
And then when we think about like white middle class Britain, for example, those children probably have more free flow.
100.
Even the schools they went to, Eton, whatever, like upper classes, they have more freedom. Oh, mummy was a this, daddy was a that. You know, I guess they can do. They study classics, this kind of thing, so they have more scope for languages, music, arts, all that kind of stuff. So in that way, those things, because they've been exposed to it, it's what they look to express to you, because actually you ain't got to worry about money. Whereas in our community, it's always, I always feel like money's at the forefront.
100.
Make sure you have a stable job so you can earn money to provide, not go and work for yourself.
Yeah.
And
also because like my parents' generation or our parents' generation were all about survival.
Yes.
And now we're able to kind of, you know, reap the benefits of that, of the houses that they've got, and we can learn from them, and we can go a step further and actually think about ourselves, and that, you know, the evolution and generational wealth and all of that stuff.
No, definitely. I mean, we've kind of me and you have spoken about it, like, me and you, Jodi, like, it's one of those things where, especially like in an African household, because it's so funny that you mentioned an African household, because just obviously I told you I just had a newborn baby in it, and it's so funny how I think we did the whole traditional naming, and my mom came there, and then obviously when she was calling out my daughter's name, she was just basically saying, "Oh, doctor, a lawyer, a nurse." I was like, why are you? Do you know what I mean? It's like you're sort of like
really putting pressure on this poor newborn.
Bro, the baby's like a week old. And it's like, I don't know whether it's to say it's a cultural thing, or is it a society thing, or is just a community where it's only certain type of jobs that's good enough for our type of people, and it must be the top jobs like doctor, solicitor, or accountant, or, you know, that kind of job. But you never look at it as if like, okay, what about like you can maybe be a footballer, or you could be an entrepreneur, you can own your own business, you know, going to like property investment.
Those things as risky, like when you
this is it. There's no security.
There's no job security.
There you go. Because I mean, like when I was growing up, I wanted to become a footballer. But remember, I was telling you, like, we've had this discussion, you know what I mean? And we all know how that went, you know. But it's like you just felt like you never had the support, and you just sort of look back on it thinking, oh, I wonder what would have been. But then if you look at it on the flip side, like these days, if you had become a footballer, you probably would have earned shitloads of money, more than what you're probably earning in a career you're doing right now.
Yeah.